Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, July 23rd, 2021. And our top story today, Florida State University launches a financial literacy hub for students and staff. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Dr. Richard Burnett. He is an Associate Provost for Data and Strategy and also the Interim Chief Information Officer at Florida State University. Rick, it's so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Jeffrey, so happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. And look, we're here to talk about financial literacy and the great work that's being done at FSU for students. But before we do that, how are things going? What does the reopening look like potentially this fall for students coming to the university?
So Florida State is a destination university. Most of our students come from over 4 hours away. In fact, 75% come from 4 hours away. So we've tried to make this a residential experience. And this past year, obviously, it was very difficult to do so. We are planning with the hope and expectation that we will have a fully in-person experience coming this fall. And we're hoping the Delta variant doesn't change that.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us have our fingers crossed there. And I know a lot of planning has gone into it from you and the rest of the team at FSU to make it a seamless experience. All right, let's talk about financial literacy, because what really caught my interest, and I think what the audience will find interesting, is that FSU has really taken the lead to offering financial literacy information, resources, and courses to its students. And I guess my first question is, what's the why behind that? What really kind of keyed that and ticked that off for FSU?
Well, I think the why is that we're an institution that is really concerned about students. We want to be an institution that serves the state of Florida. That means the entire state of Florida. So we want to be able to have an affordable education. But we've also been very focused on student success for the past 22 years, and one of the most advanced institutions nationally in terms of the effort that we've placed on making sure that our students are successful in graduating. So we initially wanted to make sure they graduated. Now we want to make sure that they're graduating with the preparation to get a job, the preparation to be successful in life. And a lot of that has to do with money, being able to retain as a student. Can you afford it? We have the lowest tuition in the country in the state of Florida. But even at that, it's a challenge, especially when you have to pay for room and board and other expenses.
And in terms of when this became a top priority, is it something you were noticing from students, not you in particular, but the university was noticing and like, hey, I've got student loan debt that I need to manage, or I'm not sure how to budget, or hey, what do I do with that 401k that I'm going to have when I get that first job out of college?
So it's interesting. I mentioned student success. And so we've had 20 offices meeting every 2 weeks for 22 years. And so what we found out is for every 6 students that don't return, that's 1/10 of a point reduction in our retention rate. And some of those things matter for the state of Florida, where they really focus on metrics. And so when we start getting those conversations, we start saying what was affecting students. And so we learn about these use cases, and we have a venue or a forum for which we can bring up these concerns that students have. And then we say, well, what can we do to fix that? And so in that process, we figured out a lot of things about paying for college, and we've created food banks for students, and we found ways for students to get jobs. But then you go beyond that. The Career Center started saying, well, when you get a job, how do you know how to negotiate to get the best salary or the best compensation package when you get your first job out of college? They've also said that employers want people to understand money and understand financial issues. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have as much co-curricular non-classroom learning as we do classroom learning. There's a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think this is great. And I've always said, it's my belief, and this is just a personal opinion, that, you get a lot of your financial literacy from your parents. You also get it at K through 12. You need to get it in college and graduate school. And by the way, I'm almost 50 years old. I don't know everything, and I'm constantly learning. So it seems like this pairs nicely with some of the other academic rigors and other parts of people's lives. Is that your sense as well?
Absolutely. And I think it really becomes a point of information management. You talked about the fact that you don't know certain things you wish you knew about a 401k or your investing plan. But you can go out and find information. The problem is that there are thousands of references from various different financial organizations and the federal government and others throughout the country. And so what we tried to do is we tried to say, let's take people who are expert in a certain area and have them go out and cull through all the information and say, we like these 3 resources best, or these 2. Oh, here's a calculator you can use to figure out whether it's better to live on campus or off campus. Here's a budget sheet that helps you figure out how you're going to plan your next week's budget.
And I know that Provost, your colleague, Provost Sally McRory, really sponsored this project. What are tell us about the hub and tell us about these resources. I know one of the key challenges and I think you're alluding to this, one of the key challenges with having information anywhere, and I think we see this in the Netflix environment, is you can have all great movies, but if you can't find the movies you like to watch, whether they're recommended to you or not, it's really hard to sort through and find if I want to watch, Aliens, for example. And the same probably holds true with the Financial Literacy Hub at FSU. How is it being organized?
Well, it's funny, Jeffrey, you mentioned the movie watching. So that kind of Netflix phenomenon is something that we kind of see as our financial literacy 3.0. So what we did with the site is there's a lot of information. So let's make it a form that if somebody doesn't know what they want to do, we start off and you say, paying for college. It's a topic. You can drill into that topic. Then the next one is planning and budgeting. You can drill into that one. Then you can go into banking and credit. Then you move on to investing and insurance, and then ultimately taxes. Of course, taxes that's the end of everything. But so you can drill in kind of a serial fashion like that. We've also marketed it to our prospective students, but also to our current students. We market it to their families, but we also market it to our staff and to our faculty so that people are aware and can direct. And so our student business services office, right on the front of their page, it says, hey, if you have questions, here's a site. They put a little graphic up and it moves there. The site, by the way, is an original piece of work crafted by finding the best elements of 50 different sites from around the country. So we got a list of the 50 institutions that did this the best. And we started finding out what each one of those institutions did well and what they didn't. And so this whole effort is really to say, how can we tune and grow off the best practices of a lot of people and present it in a way that is good for our students?
That sounds like it's an approach that is working. Rick, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more to Rick, I should say, about Florida State University's initiative around financial literacy. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score, a credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Dr. Richard Burnett of Florida State University. Rick, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, this is great, and we love highlighting initiatives like this, whether they're, again, at the K through 12 level, in college, or post-college, in graduate school, et cetera. Rick, I would think that this site is a living and breathing site. It's going to evolve. What it looks like today, it's not going to look like tomorrow. In the future, you're going to be putting more content, removing content. Is that a point of fact?
Absolutely. So this site exists because we had a lot of this information in these disparate locations around the campus. And so different offices had different pieces of the puzzle. And so this effort was really to unify them all into a single site. So you had one point of reference, financialsuccess.fsu.edu, that anybody could go to, and we could market that site to those populations I talked about earlier. So to me, that was very important. So we wanted to get something up, but then to your point, we also want to improve upon it. So we're looking at, not the site, but we're looking at adding peer counseling, where our finance students are being available to counsel other students on questions they may have about finance. We're also looking at putting YouTube videos and others on the site to make it a little more interactive, maybe even using some natural language processing and AI to help answer questions that people may have.
I want to ask you about staff, faculty. They have access to a 403B, maybe a governmental 457 plan. Will they have access to this site as well? Because it seems like there's a lot of community learning. You mentioned the community, the student community, but faculty, staff, people that support the university, they're part of that as well. Maybe they're in a different life stage, but they're still learning, they're still evolving. Will they have access to the site?
Absolutely. This is a public site, so anybody in your audience has access to the site as well. And so the focus initially is on student success, but as we went down this path, we recognized that we have a number of our staff members and our faculty who can benefit from the same information. We will, as we move forward, focus some of those efforts, particularly like the webinars and the face-to-face events where people can learn about planning their retirement, things like that, will be woven into the site. And there's a channel on the site for events. And so people can tap in there, but they can also go through these same topics.
And I like the fact that you bring in some of the financial students. And I recall back when I was a much younger man in college, and they would bring in accounting students who were seniors and looking to move into the accounting profession to actually help out people in the community do their tax returns. I could envision that same model, maybe not tax returns, although you never know, but also financial students, as you're mentioning, people who are in investment banking or just basic financial analysis. Those are really good skills to have, but they could be helping their fellow students and all others within the local Tallahassee community as well.
Well, we have students, finance is one of our largest majors at Florida State, and we have a number of those students who are interested in personal finance. And so working with their fellow students is maybe a better place to start than working with a 70-year-old retiree who's got a couple $1 million they want to try to move around. So it might be best to start with some training wheels, talking to fellow students and not putting that much money at risk as they get used to their skills. And I think that that one of the things we're trying to do with our student success effort is to do experiential learning. Equip people before they leave campus to have those skills of actually doing things with what they learn instead of just simply learning in a vacuum in an abstract sense. The other is, you mentioned from your schooling, the accounting. Well, we have a situation where we have a small business incubator on campus. And so we've had a group that's been working with small businesses, helping them navigate what they need to do. So there are all types of opportunities, and that's part of a major university is that service element that says we're giving back to the community and we're giving back to our own students.
Rick, there may be other schools. I hope there are other people. I know there are a lot of people watching, but there may be other schools that are looking to follow FSU's lead. What recommendations would you make to them in terms of setting this up? Obviously, there's a lot of work involved in planning and also putting forth the information. But any advice to those provosts and at other universities or community colleges in order to do something similar?
So the first is there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Other people have done it. And so I found a list of the 50 best financial literacy programs, and we started plucking information from each of those and basically create a command sheet that says, this school does this very well. Let's emulate that. But you need an executive sponsor. You mentioned Sally McCrory, our provost. That's the executive vice president for academic affairs at Florida State. She's the one who basically said, we need to have a single point of contact for all these resources that we have. And then she empowered me. I've run our strategic plan implementation, so I'm used to this type of activity. And what we did is we defined those 5 topics I mentioned earlier, and then I just identified somebody, actually 2 people each for each topic, and let them run and have their own autonomy to fill out the content there. But what's interesting is I actually wanted to engage our students because I talked about experiential learning. So I actually have a freshman who was an international baccalaureate student out of Tampa, and he was part of a program at FSU called Intern FSU, where students do an internal internship at FSU with the professional here, and he basically curated all this information and worked with our university communications group to produce the website. He actually did the initial mock-ups of the website and worked directly to execute all of this.
Rick, I guess last question. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours. It's such an important topic, and maybe we'll revisit this with you over the next course of the months when the school year begins. How do you measure success? Do you benchmark? Is there a way to measure how the students do today and in the future outside of, okay, Jane Doe and John Doe got jobs and they have X amount in retirement savings and X amount of savings? How are you benchmarking or looking at the success of the program?
Jeffrey, I love that question because you just killed me with my own sword. So in our strategic plan, strategicplan.fsu, let me shamelessly plug that. We have 155 metrics that basically says that we'll know we're there because we defined what there is. We've not done that yet with our financial success, but now you put me under the gun here. So we'll be doing that. But we certainly intend to track our student competency when it comes to financial literacy. And that's the overall goal, that they leave here better equipped.
Yeah. Well, Rick, we're going to leave it there. Unfortunately, I wish we could talk more. Always a pleasure chatting with you. And look, we look forward to having you and the folks at FSU back on the show again very soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, and everybody have a good day.
Thanks, Rick. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing your perspective. And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, this time for BRN Weekly. We'll have a very special guest, and we'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.